So let's now go to one more receiver who I think we have to mention. And I know my answer is no. I've been down this road before. Marquez Valdes-Scantling.
Yep.
And believe me, you will hear me piss and moan on our Best Bets podcast about being on the wrong side of that game.
The right side, the technically wrong side.
Yeah, the technically wrong side. Young Wei Koo, not exactly on my Christmas card list right now. But Marquez Valdes-Scantling, look, if you get burned by MVS twice in the year 2024, you probably deserve what's coming to you. But that's what happened to the Atlanta Falcons. I cannot, in good faith. Now, if you're in a 14-team league and you're like, I lost Olave and I lost Ayuk, and that's very possible that you did, then certainly you might need to pick somebody up. But if you're expecting Marquez Valdes-Scantling to really help your fantasy team outside of a fluke, good luck is my call.
What? Why are you shaking your head? You're welcome.
Welcome to week number 11 of the 2024 NFL season and our waiver wire show here at FantasyPoints YouTube. My name is Joe. That is Tom. And we're going to take you through a quick glance at the week 11 waiver wire. Tom, it has been like the worst year for the waiver wire ever in my estimation, mostly because none of the running backs are getting hurt and all of the receivers are getting hurt. And, fortunately, we might have an option for you if you need a wide receiver this week. I want to remind everybody that you can check out the full waiver wire article up at fantasypoints.com with a code with a NFL Standard or NFL Premium subscription. Use code YouTube25 to get. I mean, you're barely paying anything at this point of the season because, well, we've discounted our product severely. So, T-Bro, let's get to that wide receiver position. And this is my best call of the week. I said on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio on Friday, we do our bold prediction segment. I made one bold prediction.
Nice.
I said Ricky Pearsall scores his first touchdown of his NFL career. He did so. Now, I know in more competitive leagues, he is not available. He's available in roughly 2/3 of Yahoo leagues right now. But Ricky Pearsall, coming back from getting shot, coming back essentially from, having to learn the offense after not being able to practice this summer and into the fall. And now he has a really important role on a team that wants to make a push for the Super Bowl. Ricky Pearsall is the 49ers' primary outside receiver right now with Brandon Ayuk on injured reserve.
Yeah, that was a great call by you, Joe, and that Buccaneers matchup. And I also, in my Game Hub, I wondered if he would be a little bit more involved coming out of their bye. I mean, this is a guy that hasn't been able to practice for much of the season. He got kind of thrown back into the mix right before their bye, and just did a little bit of that extended layoff. Maybe helped him to get more into the mix, and he came through with a big game. So if he's been dropped, or if somebody, because of the bye week before last week's big game, he should be added. I mean, and we're looking at Brock Purdy every week. He's putting up massive numbers. Do worry, overall, Christian McCaffrey is going to take a few more targets away in the future. And I'm curious to see what this rotation will look like whenever Chris Conley is available. He was not available last week. But Pearsall, I think after last week, he showed that he needs to be in the mix every week in this passing game. Maybe he'll get some more first read targets in the future. So the arrow is pointing straight up for this first round pick. And hopefully we get to see a little bit more of him as the season moves along here.
Another rookie receiver with similarly high draft capital, though not a first round draft capital, is Adonai Mitchell with the Indianapolis Colts. AD Mitchell. He's available in roughly 95% of leagues on Yahoo. And he has been one of the best separators in the league, at least per our average separation score, our ASS metric at Fantasy Points. And it really hadn't translated to production until this past week. Now, here is the issue for AD Mitchell, Tom. How much longer is Joe Flacco for this lineup? And as bad as Flacco has been, they can run a traditional drop back passing game with Joe Flacco. They have been unable to do that with Anthony Richardson. And if the Colts season continues to spiral downward, well, that means they're probably going to put Richardson back in the lineup. But also, if the Colts season continues to spiral downward, that means AD Mitchell has more opportunity. because they're probably going to shut down Michael Pittman, who has a back injury.
Yeah, that's the big question here, and that's why I put him up so high in the waiver wire report this week, because we just don't know with Pittman. We got the reports a couple of weeks ago that he could be headed for the IR and they might shut him down, and he's continued to play through it the last couple of weeks and very ineffectively. They finally sat him down last week in week 10, and Mitchell basically steps into his place and plays much better than Pittman was playing the last couple of weeks. So gets 6 catches for 71 yards. So you have to wonder if they look at what's going on here with Pittman and he's struggling, maybe we just shut him down here for the next couple of weeks or maybe for the rest of the season and give Mitchell a chance to continue to thrive in this role. So at the very least, I think he's worth picking up this week and stashing on your bench here to see what materializes here over the next couple of weeks. But as you said, he's popped in our ass metric. And we've been waiting for something to happen here, but it finally did in a very tough matchup against the Buffalo Bills last week. So maybe this is a sign of bigger things to come for him. And he's the type of player, maybe with a bigger role, and maybe even if, hopefully Richardson, if he does get back into the lineup, he does play a little bit better after sitting down here and watching Joe Flacco play for the last couple of weeks. So I think he's still a player that has a lot of upside and should be rostered in a lot of leagues.
So let's now go to one more receiver who I think we have to mention. And I know my answer is no. I've been down this road before. Marquez Valdes-Scantling.
Yep.
and believe me, you will hear me piss and moan on our Best Bets podcast about being on the wrong side of that game.
The right side, the technically wrong side.
Yeah, the technically wrong side. Young Wei Koo, not exactly on my Christmas card list right now. But Marquez Valdes-Scantling, look, if you get burned by MVS twice in the year 2024, you probably deserve what's coming to you. But that's what happened to the Atlanta Falcons. I cannot, in good faith. Now, if you're in a 14-team league and you're like, I lost Olave and I lost Ayuk, and that's very possible that you did, then certainly you might need to pick somebody up. But if you're expecting Marquez Valdes-Scantling to really help your fantasy team outside of a fluke, good luck is my call.
Yeah, and that's how I have him listed in the report. I have him a little farther down than most other waiver wire articles are probably going to have him. He's probably going to be at the top of most waiver wire articles, and I'm going to take a little bit of a stand here and say that this does not continue. And he's as you said, Joe, it's probably 14 and 16 team leagues, maybe non-PPR formats as well. He's been this type of player ever since his days with Aaron Rodgers up in Green Bay. He flashes every once in a while, hits a couple of big plays, and goes back to being just a guy that's out there running wind sprints on the outside. So he's going to be the popular name this week. I'm not going to buy into the hype. I think it's a little bit of fool's gold here. But he did pop this past week. Derek Carr, he's had some success with Shaheed and Olave throwing the deep ball over the last couple of years. So he could have a couple more moments moving forward, but I'm not using a waiver priority or fab on him this week.
So let's go to the running back position, Tom. And there are two guys I think we need to talk about. The first is Denver, who competing for a playoff spot, should have won, should have beaten Kansas City. They get a 35-yard field goal blocked. And they did it in a game in which Javonte Williams had one carry. It was a week later than maybe we had expected. But the rhetoric from Sean Payton, hey, we're going to use Audric Estime more, it came true in week number 10. And look, it still looks like it might be a three-headed monster in that backfield on a mediocre offense. But Estime is somebody who should be rostered right now in virtually every league, at least as like an RB4 or RB5.
Yeah, it's worth Adam here. And if there's an injury or something, that this 3-man rotation gets taken down to a 2-man rotation and gives him a better chance of coming through. But Peyton has been hinting at this for a couple of weeks here, and it finally paid off here. He got hot. He got a little bit of a hot hand. He had a couple long runs early in the game, and they stuck with him. And Javonte Williams kind of moved into more of a passing back role. He played in third down situations, obvious passing situations. So maybe this is how this backfield is going to be split up moving forward. So Peyton came out today on a Monday and said that he's going to continue to get more reps as the season moves along here. So maybe this is the start of something. So if you've been rostering Javonte Williams, or you're one of these, I mean, Joe, we do this waiver wire report every week, and we haven't really had many running back options that are emerging or stepping into big roles in the last month. This is the closest thing that we've gotten to maybe a change happening in a backfield. So Estime is worth taking a look at here. I'm worried that this backfield hasn't been prolific to begin with Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin. Now we're going to add Audric Estime to it, but at the very least, he's worth picking up, seeing what develops over the next couple of weeks, and maybe he's usable by the time the fantasy playoffs are coming around here in the next couple of weeks.
I think Gus Edwards' return to the lineup for the Chargers was more of a goosing for J.K. Dobbins than it was a creation of an actual fantasy asset, because I don't think he's gotten to even 6 fantasy points yet in a game this year, but he did look good. If that tickles your pickle, T-Bro.
Yeah, I enjoyed Hassan Haskins coming in, and after Gus and Dobbins are splitting all the work, and Haskins comes in and cleans up the goal line touchdown in that game. So maybe if you're in a non-PPR, I would guess that Edwards gets most of those opportunities moving forward. It hasn't happened for him yet, but we've seen it the last couple of years in Baltimore. He gets these opportunities at the goal line, so he went right back to having a pretty prominent role on early downs in this game. The game script worked out heavily in his favor. The Chargers were leading by multiple scores in the second half, which enabled them to run the ball a little bit more. But certainly a guy that's back on the radar in non-PPR formats.
Let's go to the quarterback position, Tom, because you might have lost Dak Prescott. Obviously, you've got some quarterbacks going on bye, including Kyler Murray this week. And one guy who I particularly want to talk about is Mr. Unlimited. How about Russell Wilson? Those moon balls, baby. He's got Mike Williams and he's got George Pickens on the receiving end of those moon balls. And look, I know he threw multiple touchdowns. He completed just 50% of his passes against the Commanders, but those were the Russell Wilson who became a star in the NFL was a guy who was completing high value passes when he completed passes. And recently in Denver, he checking it down, just not playing an aggressive game. The Steelers seem to have unlocked an older version of Russ, who's not the same guy he was in Seattle. I get it. He's not running basically at all. But those deep throws have been a part of his game, and it really marries well with the receiving core he's got.
Yeah, it's been a great marriage so far. The Steelers have been able to run the ball really effectively in his first 3 starts, and you could tell the Commanders were trying to take away that running game a little bit, and left a single high safety quite a few times. And the last one really burned them at the end of the game when Mike Williams on his lone target matched the Jets' total point outage, from last week was 6 on his touchdown reception. So we got George Pickens, who's been unlocked by this move, up to 276 yards and 2 touchdowns in Russell Wilson's first 3 starts. So this downfield passing game is been hitting on all cylinders since Russell Wilson stepped into the lineup, and it's going to have to continue this week. We got the matchup that we every fantasy passing game salivates over. The Ravens are up next here. We just saw Jamar Chase go absolutely nuts. Joe Burrow put up 5 touchdown passes in that game as well. So we're looking at Russell Wilson as the top streamer here. He's still only owned in 21% of Yahoo leagues. And that secondary for the Ravens, we also got to keep an eye on Kyle Hamilton. One of their standouts in that secondary. He picked up an ankle injury. It looked kind of nasty, but they downplayed it after the game. But he could be out of the mix as well for that Ravens secondary. So something to keep an eye on here. But yeah, Russell Wilson, 6 touchdown passes in his first 3 games. He has a rushing touchdown as well. So right around, he's averaging almost close to 20 fantasy points per game. And this is a great spot to continue to do it. And he might be somebody you roster for the next month. Cleveland, Cincinnati, Cleveland after the Baltimore game. He has another matchup with Baltimore later in the season as well. So some pretty good matchups looking ahead here for Russell Wilson. So yeah, if you're a Dak owner, and looking for a piece, Russell Wilson might be that guy.
Check out the article, the waiver wire article at fantasypoints.com using code YouTube25 to get you 25% off already, something that's 50% off. You will be really glad you did. T-Bro covers over 70 players in the article. It goes down to guys like Trey Lance, people. Like Trey Lance is written up in this article. We're not going to talk about him on the show. Go read about it at fantasypoints.com. That's Tom. I'm Joe. You're you. It's week 11. Everybody, have a good one.